This is a discussion of 3 indie horror games, Proximate, Without a Dawn, and Dead Letter Department, all of which collectively take a little over 3 hours to play. I will not be discussing the endings of any of these games, but in terms of spoilers, this video will certainly go over details for each title that are treated as reveals within a playthrough. Also, I have a new book available, but I'm not going to talk any more about that until the end of the video. In Proximate, a 2024 indie game by developer Kane Maddox, you never actually see the world you're navigating. You're aware of the fact that you're in a small underwater complex with a kitchen, a recreation center, a lobby, a medical bay. You're aware that each of these rooms has the furniture you would expect. The bathroom has a sink, the kitchen has food, the bionics center has machines. But despite the fact that you'll spend at least an hour wandering between these rooms full of things over your playthrough of Proximate, you will only see one thing: a small computer strapped to the front of your character's head. The computer will see for you. You only need to read. The Sonovisor, as we're introduced to it in its own advertising brochure, uses proprietary AI tech to determine what you're looking at, in snowstorms, in fires, even in total darkness. The visor tells you what it thinks the object in front of you is, your distance to said object, and, most interestingly, its percent confidence in the accuracy of that thing. So it will tell you that it's 98.6% confident something is an airlock, or that it's 92.8% confident something is mince beef, or 42.2% confident something is a woman. Fortunately, your job isn't contingent on your ability to understand. You're little more than a corporate drone sent to this complex to recover valuable data after something happened to the entire crew. We're sure that's mince beef, right? When the game starts, your goals are simple. Interact with data consoles in the different rooms of the complex. The mechanical interest comes from navigating using the Sonovisor, which itself is contingent on a couple interconnected systems. You have the word of what you're looking at, the cardinal direction you're facing, the distance to each object, and, to confirm your position in the world, a map of the interconnected rooms. You can't move while looking at the map, but it's nevertheless an essential part of moving around. How else could you reorient yourself if you got lost? 15 minutes into the game, your Sonovisor's memory gets overloaded. Your supervisor takes the liberty of clearing some room in the software for you. He deletes your map. This is the way Proximate actually plays. You start each run in your home base, actually a submarine attached to the complex. The console there has the only copy of your map. You know you need to get to, let's say, the surgery room. So you stare at it and think, okay, I'm going to leave my submarine, head towards the upper right of the lobby, keep my shoulder to the wall of co-working, and turn right again when I reach the top, walk in a straight line across bionics, and then I'll get to surgery. And then once I get to surgery and find out what I need there, certainly not encountering anything distracting or disturbing on the way, I'll simply reverse my steps. I'll walk right back to my submarine. Easy as pie. Proximate delights in interrupting these plans. Sometimes it's as simple as a room being filled with desks that you have to navigate around, meaning you can't adhere to your carefully thought out route. Or maybe the thing you're looking for doesn't stay still, or maybe you're being moved around. All you know is that the thing that was a meter away is now 5 meters away, and why is it labeled dog? That can't be right, we're at the bottom of the ocean. And look, maybe it would be impossible to see down here otherwise. Maybe there's some reason a flashlight wouldn't work. Maybe billowing sediment on the seafloor would cut visibility down to 0 regardless. But the obvious takeaway of using the Sonovisor is that this technology is warping your perception of things. It can't detect context or atmosphere. It can't focus or intuit. It creates a depersonalized vision of the world through objects, and then leaves you to go crazy filling in the blanks. The hook pulling you through your search, presuming you don't simply enjoy being a corporate-controlled drone, is the data you're recovering. Your boss says that you're looking for the research the people in the underwater complex did, but what you're finding is significantly more intimate. Stored on these consoles in each room are basically Slack conversations, group chats, and DMs between the 8 people who previously inhabited this place. And when you read these, you realize that technology warping your vision isn't just the mechanical premise of the game, it's the entire narrative conceit as well. The first piece of person-to-person communication you read in the game directly acknowledges this. Els, a bioengineer in the complex, messages Willow, a radiologist. Season 7 just dropped, she types, "Do you want to watch tonight?" Eyes emoji. Willow responds, "Why are you texting me? I'm like 2 desks away from you." This thread continues through the game. 8 people living in incredibly close quarters who still opt to message each other, either with polite workplace passive aggression, or late-night internet overfamiliarity, or emotionally stunted confessions of love and infuriatingly cryptic dismissals. Every communication, no matter how practical or sensitive, is sucked dry of its context and tone. Everything in Proximate is left ripe for misinterpretation by all the data the software excludes. My first thought, while playing Without a Dawn, a 2025 title by developer Jesse McConan, was wow, neat art style. My second thought was, oh cool, someone made a game about my biggest fear. Let's start with the first thought. Without a Dawn feels a little like ASCII art, where people use traditional keyboard characters to draw pictures or create headers for their game facts guides. It's not actually ASCII, however, because the characters, almost exclusively numbers, keep shifting around the screen. The graphics are made out of only 3 colors, just light, dark, and black, and yet the game's images, like the first shot of a woman lying on a bed, are surprising in their detail. You can see strands of her hair, her eyelashes, the way the pillow creases around her. And even though she's still, the image moves. The numbers that form the world wriggle under and around these specifics. Something, a voice, a text, a thought, tells her to open her eyes. You have a feeling that someone is watching you, it says. Someone may be standing behind the window. Without a Dawn is a game with options, but not a game with choices. You can click to ignore the intruding idea, but you can't, really. You can say there's no one there. You can try and stay in bed, but really, if you want to get on with your sleep, get on with your life, there's only one thing to do. You stand up, you go to the windows, and you open the blinds. Every other option is just delaying the inevitable. Can you see movement through the cracks in the window blinds? The voice asks you. An unfair question, because the whole screen is swimming in numbers. Can you see the shadows shifting, it says, even though nothing in the image is still. And you take a deep breath, and you open the blinds, and there's nothing behind them except for the branches of a tree gently rocking back and forth. And you take another deep breath, and you close the blinds, because even though you needed to know what was behind them, you can't sleep if they're open, and you go back to bed, and you begin to dream, and then you meet the man in the gas mask. ASCII art has a lot in common with pointillism. The image on first blush looks whole, but as you get closer and closer to it, as you begin to study the technique, the larger structure dissolves. The more obvious the brushstrokes are, the blobs of color, the smears of paint, the less obvious the idea becomes. The difference with ASCII is that each character, unlike an individual dot of paint, already holds a meaning. The slashes and ampersands and brackets, the seas of letters and numbers, we're trained to understand these things in conjunction with each other. These are pattern-making tools, and we are pattern-finding creatures, and my God, think of all the possible patterns hiding among this larger whole. The woman at the center of Without a Dawn, or at least the voice she can't help hearing, is obsessed with patterns. Maybe patterns are obsessed with her. She goes to sleep and she sees the man in the gas mask, and he asks her how many fingers he's holding behind his back, and it's 1, 6, 3, 5, 15 in all, and for some reason, that makes sense. You look at him, endless numbers in the reflected flames of his goggles, but he's not as menacing as he could be. He actually reorders his silence for you. This is how your intruding voice's silence looks. And this is how the man in the gas mask's silence looks. He organizes it for you. That's how considerate he is. 5 groups of 3. 15 silent crosses. In many ways, it's more comfortable being with the gas mask man than being awake. The game is called Without a Dawn, and fittingly, you're never even conscious during daylight. You wake up from the dream, and you're right back in bed the next night. You can't sleep. Again. There might be something outside the window, in the shifting patterns that never disappear.
The world is run by computers. The world is run by robots. And sometimes they ask us if we're a robot, just because we're trying to log on and look at our own stuff. Prove you're not a robot. Look at these curvy letters. No robot could ever read these.
In Dead Letter Department, a 2025 game by developer Mike Monroe, you spend all your time doing a robot's job because a robot can't do it. It's only disturbing if you insist on thinking like a human being. Dead Letter Department follows you on the first couple days of a job that actually exists, filling in the information on letters that can't be read by an automated system. In 2022, Tom Scott shot a video in the last remaining remote encoding center in the US, a brightly lit labyrinth of cubicles in Salt Lake City. What Dead Letter Department proposes is, what if you were the only employee of this center? And what if you had to work in Silent Hill? This is what you do in the game. You wake up each morning, leave the world's grimiest apartment, walk down a hallway with impossibly bad vibes, cross into another building with somehow even worse vibes, and sit down in the dark with a computer. And then you type what you see on screen. Jessica Richards, 9776 Lafayette Shoal, Rockfield, Wisconsin, 53022. Jacqueline Bales, 9807 Park Forest, Tomato, Arkansas, 72358. Once you sit down, your entire method of interaction with the game changes. Prior to this, as you've navigated your apartment and hallways, the game has used the standard WASD and mouse controls. But here, at the computer, you won't touch the mouse at all. Every control you need is bound to the keyboard. You can zoom in on a letter or flip it over to see the back. You can pull up a list of possible addresses to autocomplete when you've typed enough, and you can submit the envelope, all without taking either hand off the keyboard. Despite the tremendously unpleasant environment, it's more than possible to get into a groove while typing out the highlighted text of each letter. To our valued customer at 67632 Dawson Lake Road. But the groove isn't the only reason Dead Letter Department works. The real secret to why it's so engaging is because within that dark room, within that mind-numbing task, you get to indulge an impulse shared by humans and technology alike. You get to stick your nose into other people's business. Liz writes a postcard from Tokyo telling the recipient that she's currently eating noodles served out of the back of a guy's car, and they're incredible. Tara writes a letter to her grandma and addresses the envelope with nothing more than, "Her house is blue." Raymond writes a letter to Sarah and asks her on the envelope over and over, "Can you see it?" The storytelling mileage the game gets out of these envelopes is remarkable. The handwriting, the graphic design, if the envelope is torn or damp or marked, "She's been dead for 5 years, leave us alone." You get, through the screen, through your incredibly basic controls, a snapshot into people's lives. But just as you start to enjoy your little flashes of voyeurism, the automated system, the one that supposedly just gives you random letters to transcribe, starts acting strangely. Or maybe I should say, you start seeing patterns. The first one of these that I noticed was when I got two of the same names in a row. Anselma Shook, 2358 Pepin, Worland, Wyoming, 82401, immediately followed by Anselma Shook, 2358 Pepin, Worland, Wyoming, 82401. At first I thought it was a mistake on my part. Maybe I hadn't actually submitted the first one correctly and it was just repeating. But then, just a few letters later, Anselma Shook? ? Then another one. Then Anselma Shook went missing. And more, and half the goddamn letters are addressed to Anselma Shook, and I eventually noticed that she lives in the same city, even has the same zip code as my terrible little apartment. Anselma Shook wasn't able to break free. 2358 Pepin, Worland, Wyoming, 82401. There are other things, too. Sometimes I flip over a letter, and for a moment it's not the backside, it's some kind of anatomy, a picture of a mouth or teeth or viscera, and then I flip it back and the picture is gone. There was once when an envelope had no address and was instead labeled R. Williams, the first person killed by a robot. There was one time when instead of an envelope, I had to type an entire postcard about a man who dreamed that he slit his throat, only to awake and find that he had actually done it. On my first playthrough, I flipped an envelope over and glimpsed through the thin paper a letter with the phrase, "I'm going to kill you," scrawled in thick black ink. I have never seen this envelope again on any subsequent playthroughs of the game. I'm starting to wonder if I imagined it. I write a letter to my own mother at the end of a day of typing addresses and tell her, "You don't have to die to become a ghost." At the beginning of Proximate, as I read those first chat logs stored in the underwater complex, I felt like I was uncovering the correspondence of ghosts. These messages described the halls I was stumbling through. They had lived in the rooms I was only beginning to memorize. But as I kept playing, poring over their recorded arguments and midnight confessions, my relationship with them started to shift. My world outside these chat logs barely existed. Wall, 6 meters, door, 3 meters, airlock, 2 meters. Compared to the way the Sonovisor made me view the world, this was bright and colorful and stuffed with personality. I felt myself diminish in comparison. Here, on these consoles, was the real. I was the ghost haunting them. The main characters of Proximate, after I remove myself from the equation, were clearly Els and Willow, the bioengineer and the radiologist. They're hooking up. They haven't clarified, well, they haven't had the "what are we" chat yet. Eventually, Els tries to have this conversation, over text, of course, and it goes catastrophically. "Do you want to be my girlfriend? Like, officially?" she asks, followed immediately by, "Hey, are you still awake?" and then by an apology and a retraction and a retreat. Willow says no in far too many words. Els later tells another friend, also over text, "I said I want to make you happy," and she replied with, "I don't think you can." Els, as one does, spirals. What is it that is so fucking morally reprehensible about me that she can suck my dick but not love me? She is, at this moment, emotionally aligned with us in the Sonovisor. She's just seeing a list of obstacles and confidence percentages. Hasn't she kept the whole borderline personality thing pretty in check? Can Willow just see the crazy behind her eyes? Is it the trans thing? Does she have too many stretch marks? Where is the goddamn door to this room? I should probably mention that between these "what are we" conversations, the thing they're doing down here is figuring out how to reanimate corpses with AI. With enough investment, their press release says, this could pave the way for a new era in global commerce. No one really knows the consequences of doing this. They're just hoping the technology will see the future for them. There might be someone outside the window again. There shouldn't be. I know what's behind there. I shouldn't need to get out of bed, but there might be something outside the window. So I get up and I open the blinds, and behind them is nothing. No person, no waving branches, nothing except fog. Fog and... the absence of something moves towards the window. A break in the numbers, a void. I gasp in real life, frozen in place. This is my actual real life worst fear, drawn out of my psyche and placed on a screen within a screen. It draws closer. I do the only thing I can and shut the blinds, closing myself off from that abyss. I open them again. Branches, gently swaying. No void. I dream of the gas mask man again, and he tells me there's something in a box outside. I can already imagine all the false options the intruding voice will give me, how it will only end in one place, with me outside, retrieving that box. Inside the screen is a box. Inside the box is a screen, a phone. My phone? Hidden away? The intruding voice tells me that my phone serves as a window to a world filled with violence and hypocrisy, that maybe I put the phone in the box for my own good. But am I that intruding voice? Is it me? Did I decide to hide my phone, or did the voice? Maybe its goal was to isolate me. Is this world filled with anxiety and voids and flame-licked dreams a better place? I open up the phone and look through the pictures. The cabin where I'm staying, where I went to escape it all. My friends. My dog. And then the cabin again, somehow chronologically before all of this started. It doesn't make sense. I zoom in, and there he is, the gas mask man, a dream within a screen, within a screen, within a screen, and then the battery goes dead, and reality has been so thoroughly distorted through each of these lenses that I have no idea what's real, except for the patterns that move unceasingly through my field of view. On my second playthrough of Dead Letter Department, I realize there's a way to pierce the veil between the screen and my life. What if I don't type in the proper address on the envelope? What if I type in my address, the one on my lease in the terrible, dim kitchen? I try it out. The next morning, a bushel of letters fall through the mail slot. I can read the correspondence between the men writing from PTAH Road in an unnamed city. I can struggle through whatever Raymond needed to tell Sarah so desperately. I can direct Anselma Shook went missing to myself and read the enclosed newspaper clipping about a body found in a bathtub. Receiving these letters is deeply unnerving, and not just because of their contents. When a new envelope appears at my door, I realize that everything I've seen is a real, tangible object, that the distance I put between myself and their contents is as thin as a single changed address. More distressing, though, is the knowledge that in my first playthrough, the idea of closing this distance never even occurred to me. I typed everything exactly as it said. No matter if I was sending a threat or a bomb or a message to a dead person, I followed the instructions. I did as I was told. I relinquished my own sense of agency. It wasn't freeing to discover I could send the letters somewhere else. It was embarrassing. How quick I had been to give up my own sense of self, to see the world only as that software asked me to. Horror has always been a cipher for our collective anxieties, and is often more easily identified in retrospect. Slashers invade the drowsy suburbs, were invaded by some outside force, or warped by an internal one: class, race, bodily autonomy. It's an observation obvious enough to be banal. And these three games, released within 12 months of each other, could easily fit into the same category. Computer horror. What have we done to ourselves through technology? Have we abandoned the real world? But I think the distinction is a little more fine than that. What I get playing these games is the suppressed yearning for some thing, some connection that we've intentionally or inadvertently walled ourselves away from. Our fundamental vision has been shifted by a visor or a pattern or a software, and thus the manifestations of our desired connections shift too. In Proximate, our decontextualized perception of the environment can't coalesce into an understandable world, and the previous residents' subtext-laden messages fragment into those same disparate pieces. I look and I'm told exactly what I'm seeing, but it still doesn't make sense. Els looks and she reads what Willow is saying, and yet it still feels incomprehensible. The tools I and they use to interface with the world are creating an expectation of knowledge that they can't possibly satisfy. And without a dawn, everything is too connected. It's clear to us that there should be boundaries between the different layers of existence, but they've broken down, folded into each other, and maddeningly, within all of them, there exists the tease of a pattern, a promise that all of this could make sense if we just look closely enough. And once we know that, of course, there's no choice but to look. The only thing worse than that writhing torrent of numbers is when something stands outside of it, something even more unknowable. The pattern has no answer for these apparitions, nor a way of avoiding them. Eventually, we will see our own blood and realize, with relief, with horror, that it too is free from the pattern. And in Dead Letter Department, this exhaustion, this excruciating stint with reality finds an answer. This is all less complicated if we just submit to the software. Yes, we will witness distressing things at an impossible rate. We will see pain and yearning and anger and psychosis, but if we simply slot them each into their pre-apportioned bin, we can keep ourselves outside of them. There's the world out there, and the one in here, and the one in here isn't better, it's almost certainly worse, but maybe it's easier to deaden ourselves to it all, when it all comes through the same box. And Selma Shook may never have come back, but we know what address she's supposed to go to, and caring beyond that will only slow us down. The computer needs our help, after all. It can't do any of this without us. It's still me. No beard, but it's still me. Remember earlier I told you I was going to talk about my new book? It's that time. I'm going to talk about my new book. What's it called? You're Not Overthinking It. What is it? 10 of my favorite essays I've published on this channel alongside mountains of new writing by me and other authors. When can you buy it? Now. Here's slightly more information if you're not sold yet. This is an annotated essay collection from me. I've returned to pieces of mine, like Fear of Dark, or The Men Who Couldn't Stop Crying, or Games, Schools, and Worlds Designed for Violence, and I've added hundreds of new insights on how I originally wrote the essay, or things I would change, or how my thinking has shifted in the years since release. That's cool, that's neat, I think, but what's even better is what other people have added to the book. Each essay has an original afterword by a new author, expanding on its themes in some novel and unexpected direction. For instance, Remy Sue, the creative director of 1000 Times Resist, has written an absolute home run follow-up to my essay Nothing Ever Stops Existing. Lily Alexander is doing a whole thing on outsider music to follow Art for No One. The Shape of Infinity is getting a whole mini graphic novel. The book is also huge and gorgeous and bursting with original art. Just as an example, when I made Fear of Dark, I borrowed a painting from artist Dragan Biban for the thumbnail. Now, for You're Not Overthinking It, I commissioned him to do an entire new piece of art, and we'll just look at it. It f***ing rocks. The book is available for pre-order right now from my lovely publisher Lost & Colt, and just during this period, we're also offering a very special deluxe edition of You're Not Overthinking It, which includes a beautiful box, a custom slipcase, a 7-inch vinyl with original music made for my essays, an embroidered patch, a print of the cover, and some stickers just for kicks. The book is exactly the same in either version. This is just for y'all who want all the extra goodies. I'm so proud to be releasing this book, and so happy to be working with Lost & Colt again. Secure your copy today. The link to buy it is in the episode description.